Well, I am making this video about my 2019 BMW S1000R. Uh, they kind of start and they end here on this patio. Because I was considering trading it in for a Tuono, Aprilia Tuono. Also, I looked at the Kawasaki H2, and I looked at the V100 Mandello by Moto Guzzi, and they were all comfortable bikes. The Mandello was the Mandello's an Italian bike made by Moto Guzzi. It probably was the most comfortable, and then I would say second would be the Kawasaki H2, which was I like the distance between the foot peg and the seat, which was greater than this bike, which is more comfortable. And then I also looked at the Tuono, which is very equal to this bike. I think matter of fact, they're even marketed in the same market segment, as compared against one another. This bike's been very faithful. I have had no problems with it. If I can compare its faithability and its reliability, it would be equal to Japanese motorcycles. Because when you go on the website, they rated BMW like not at the top 10 of reliability. Now, which model they're talking about, I don't know. But this bike here has been very, very faithful, very, very reliable, easy to live with. Oil changes tend to be more expensive than the Big Four out of Japan, but other than the oil changes and maintenance, it's been a very, very, very reliable motorcycle. It has 6,000. Let's check the mileage. I know it has 6,000 some odd miles on it. I always get that glare. It has 6,455 miles on it. And I was able to do a long ride with it on Saturday past. Today is Wednesday. Saturday, what's the day? Wednesday, August the 23rd. So Saturday I did roughly 200 miles on it. Like I said, and it's been a very faithful bike. Adjustable suspension, quick shifter up and down, fuel gauge. That is an Öhlins adjustable steering dampener. And as you can see, the bike has 6,000 miles on it, and the tires are wearing good. The standard cleaning, as you can see where I wiped it. It's an HP model, HPM exhaust. It's been a faithful bike. I did put handlebar risers on it, as you can see. I did put a windshield. And it's just been a really, really good motorcycle. But I was looking at the Aprilia Tuono. They, believe it or not, the ones that I looked at were compared to a current new BMW S1000R. This is 2019. They went up in price, of course, because since I purchased this one, the Tuono that I'm looking at is not the one. Guys, please bear with me. I'm looking at the more comfortable one that has the higher windshield. That's the one I was looking at. It has more of a touring position. But I also considered changing the foot pegs out to make this more comfortable. My only gripe is that I would have is that this bike can be somewhat uncomfortable on long rides. I had a comfort seat. I took it off because, believe it or not, the comfort seat actually made you sit closer to the foot peg, and it was also softer, so I put back the factory seat, and I was considering changing the foot pegs. Because when I go out and look at bikes in its class for what this bike has, they offer some things that I don't seem to find on a lot of the bikes in its class segment, which is what they call the naked. And this is a 1,000cc bike. I don't call it a hyper naked because it's not over 200 horsepower. This bike is only 165. So I wouldn't call it necessarily a hyper, but it's definitely a naked motorcycle. The things that I've gotten spoiled with, it has As you can see, it has trip information that you can change on the fly. What is the average in gas mileage? Let's see. It's getting 37 miles a gallon. It has adjustable suspension. Road. I'm on now. You can see it over in the corner. I don't have no glare on it. Try to get that glare off for you guys. DDC dynamic, DDC road, and then if you go, let's get you some other modes here. I can change the to road mode, as you can see it flashing there. Dynamic, Dynamic Pro, rain, and it also has heated grips. And of course the start stop, and of course cruise control, which is right here. You just push it over, hit the switch, set the cruise, 4-way flashers. So the bike has some nice features I really like. You can see the wire going to the suspension, and of course if you go in the back, it has adjustable suspension in the rear. Let's get you a better picture. See if we can get in there. You can see the adjustable suspension. So the bike has a lot of nice features. I never wring the motor out. Motor's nice and dry. It's not a sweaty, you know, not showing signs of any sweating, or it's always been a nice dry motorcycle. And pretty much for the most of them that I see, even older models, they all tend to be very dry engines. I never see them real sweaty or leaking, you know, just a good dry motor. Compared to the Tuono, if I can do a comparison, you'll hear the Tuono handles better. It makes 10 more horsepower, but the Tuono is also heavier. I think this bike is in the 450-ish range. The Tuono is 460, 67-ish range. The Tuono, the weight does feel better when you sit on it. The weight feels towards the bottom, where this bike tends to be top heavy. And I just think that's just the nature of an inline 4 engine. Tends to be on the heavier side. Braided brake lines, front and rear, as you can see. Has braided lines on it. Go all the way back. Pad's been holding up really good for a 6,000 mile bike. The front's been doing really good. If I can get a good picture in there. It's just been a good motorcycle. I was kind of chasing comfort at this point in my life. I wanted something a little more comfortable, because when I made that ride on Saturday, it was broken up into a 40-mile trip, then a 160-mile trip. I did the 40 early that morning, and I got a call, and my buddy says, "Hey man, let's go out." And before we know it, at the end of the day, I think we had logged, him and I together, 160. So I'm looking for its replacement. The H2 is definitely a comfortable bike. I know it's a little high-strung with that supercharged engine. And the Tuono, I like the feel of the Tuono. I use this, my analogy, I call it that bicycle feeling. When the weight's towards the bottom of the bike, you sit on it, you rock it back and forth, and you don't see, you don't feel the weight of it. So it doesn't feel heavy. I noticed with, I told you about the adjustable steering dampener. The reason why I did the adjustable steering dampener, which I found videos all on YouTube, a lot of guys says you get this kind of effect on the BMW. Well, the minute I put that adjustable dampener and tightened it up, all that went away. But even a new bike, I mean, and I've tried to figure it out, and one of the sales guys that sold me this particular bike told me what happens is, and he says, when you get that, it's under hard acceleration. I said, yep. He said, what it's doing is it's picking the wheel up and putting it back down. Then when you go to another gear, it picks the wheel up, put it back down. So he says, what you're feeling is, he said, you're feeling the wheel when it's hitting back on the ground. Because it's not a slapper, it's a wiggle. Well, when you're on a bike, you know, under hard acceleration, and you feel any kind of movement that's not quite natural to you, you kind of say, you know what, I need to address this. You only got 2 wheels on the ground, and I don't know if you're riding on only but a few inches of that front tire and a few inches of that rear tire. You want it all to be on the ground and working. For safety reasons, and for confident reasons and just own peace of mind reasons. So that's my video. I wanted to try to find something that had the features this had. Now let's talk about the features real quick. I'll be brief. I just showed you about the cruise, the adjustable suspension, the heated grips. I did put handlebar risers to make it more comfortable, which is not factory. That's what I put on it just to make it more comfortable for me. I even have a charger for my battery and for my camera. I've installed that as well, neatly tucked away. But it has a thing called link braking, BMW installed on this particular model. And when you grab the front brake, it automatically reaches down and grabs the rear brake. And it's called link braking. So I rarely find myself hitting the back pedal. One day I actually hit the pedal because I wanted to know what it felt like. And I could actually feel the pulsating of the ABS because I'd really clamped down on it. I want to know if it works. And I felt it. So I'm under the belief that it does work and it works efficiently. Like I said, and it's the things that I look for when I go to replace this bike. Every time I seem to want to go look for a new replacement, I bring down my list and I said, hey guys, I said, listen, I'm comparing this bike to what I currently ride, and I like to know, does this bike have A, B, and C? And I seem to can get a lot of things. I like with the Ducati Street Fighter, which I know that's an Apex Predator, 208 horse. It's a real beautiful machine. But I asked the guy, does it have cruise? He said no. I said, does it have heated grips? He said no. I said, does it have link braking? He said no. But he says it's got 208 horse and it's probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest, naked out there. And I said, sir, that's all well and good, but I kind of want some comfort along with all that speed and performance. So, and you know, when you're buying an Apex bike or a bike that's top of the notch of its class or category, I always say this here: nobody goes out and buys a Ferrari and says, hey, does it have air conditioning? Does it have a gas gauge? Does it have, you want everything when you're paying Ferrari money. I'm not saying I'm in that category, but when you're in these big 1000cc naked class bikes, and this bike offers all those things, you kind of want to look for that in its competitors, along with the performance, along with the 208 horsepower. I looked at the Kawasaki H2, and it had cruise control, which I love. It had no heated grips, did not have link braking. I actually called Kawasaki directly because I said, you know, I'm gonna call Kawasaki. I called them, I forgot where they're located, somewhere in the country. And the lady said, hold on just a minute, and she said, nope, it does not have those features. Did have quick shifter up and down. But one of the things I found out about the cow, just listening to people on YouTube, the guy says, hey man, I got this thing only got 22 miles to the gallon. I'm gonna tell you, you know, if you do a lot of long distance riding or you consider riding at a distance, you kind of start to ask yourself, man, I really want, I want some long legs underneath me. I want to know that I can ride and not have to stop every 50, 75, 100 miles, whatever the size of the tank is. So that was kind of disheartening. The Tuono, which I really like. I did hear a guy on YouTube say, hey, you know, it does get a little warm underneath your seat between your legs because that cylinder is there. Now, Ducati does something that's really cool. Ducati actually, if I'm saying this right, nobody don't beat me up. Ducati shuts off that back cylinder between your legs, which gets rid of some of the heat, which I thought was wonderful. Because, you know, when you're riding on a long ride, the sun's on the top, the heat's on the bottom, it gets a little uncomfortable. But we're in August now. We've been getting some cool days. I think Saturday it only got to 80 degrees, low humidity in New Jersey. So it was a beautiful day for a long ride. Because when you got the helmet on and all the gear on, I don't ride without gear. Never do I ride without gear. I just, you know, like to be safe. But back to the bike, I said, you know, it gets hot, so heat becomes a factor. So I've always tried to minimize the heat on most bikes. When I purchased this bike, didn't really look at a Tuono. The H2 wasn't out. You're talking about 2019, and I was looking at 2017s at the time. And then I was prepared to make the move at for 2019. But you start looking at certain features that you get accustomed to. I did put these foam cushions on the handlebar. to absorb some of the harmonics, because you just notice with inline four sometimes you get harmonics. And thank God for cruise control, because when you slap on the cruise, you can take your hand off the handlebar, which is a blessing. So guys, my quest continues. I said I'm gonna keep riding this until somebody puts the features that I've gotten accustomed to on this BMW. Now, is the BMW the fastest? Absolutely not. Is it decent? Oh, it's respectable. It's 165 horse. It's not a class leader in the world that I live in. I mean, some people would argue with me up and down it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, but you talk to those Aprilia owners and you talk to those Street Fighter owners and they'll tell you different, and they'll show you different, because I tend to look at that YouTube stuff, and I look at a bunch of videos and I try to make a reasonable, rational judgment when it comes to purchasing. One of the things I like to talk about also, guys, you're gonna laugh at me, but you can tell I've been riding a long time. I'm a mature guy. This tank is aluminum. Now, I had an old Zephyr 550. The tank rotted out. I bought another one from a dealer just because I wanted a decent tank that wasn't rotted out. Well, I got a year's worth of riding before I found out that tank was rotted out. So do I ask that question? Do I take a magnet with me to see if it's aluminum or plastic? Absolutely. Because when you find that one particular bike you like and love, you can keep it for years. And the things that I used to get so upset about when I had my Zephyr 550 was, I said, man, I like this bike, but the tank started leaking on me. And then just the age of a 1991 motorcycle, now keep in mind, I didn't buy it new. It was very used when I bought it. But it had that old school cow look with the dual overhead cam, and it looked like a baby, is that a Z1 or R1 or one of them old cow performance bikes from back in the day, like them GPZs. I liked the look of it, but it was a baby version. But because of the rusty tank and the leaks, I got rid of it. And I had a bike with carburetors on it. Never will buy another bike with carburetors. Oh my goodness, I had a Honda CB 750. I had a 90 something version of it. I forget, don't quote me on, I'm not real good on all those names, but it was an inline four with carburetors. What a nightmare getting them carburetors syncing, keeping them together, as well as the 550 Zephyr. So I'm a fuel injection guy. I don't want to play with, don't get me wrong, there's guys who got way more talent than me that can play with that stuff. Give me fuel injection. Because it's just less headaches. Even my old Buick over there, that Grand National's got fuel injection from the 80s. Thank God for fuel injection. I hate pouring gas in carburetors and pumping the accelerator to get it to start. What a nightmare. So I got rid of my Chevelle. So the things that I look at is like I just shared with you, compared to all those creature comforts. I don't like metal tanks. I know they still make them, and I know they don't keep them long enough to make that an issue, but still, you like to see the bike have a long life, a good life, and see a lot of happy eyes and smiles when people owns it and rides it. Unlike this thing here, it's an old cow, carbureted. I think it's a 550 or 500, some project my son was playing with and finally got smart and gave up on. So, I'm saying, guys, I like fuel injection. I like modern technology. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a fan as much as I thought as electronic suspension. I do like the adjustability when you're riding, how it will mirror the road conditions. That part of it I love. But do I ever flip and flop and change it from this mode to that mode because I want to stand up on the back wheel? Never. I tend to just cruise. I'm getting lengthy now. Let me be quiet. But those are the things I'm up against. The suspension, the handling, the ride, the comfort. I even added this windshield to try to get, less wind on me at highway speeds. And then I find myself doing this, and I know I got some takers in this category. I try to find back roads. Now, don't get me wrong. I like the big CC engine, because if I get out on the highway, I can ride with, traffic, and I'm not feeling like I'm screaming or struggling to keep up. But my quest continues. I'm looking for that perfect replacement machine that has kind of all I want. I looked at the XR BMW. It's a tall horse. Not quite ready for that. Not quite ready for a full-blown cruiser. And there's nothing wrong with them. I'm just just not there yet. I kind of still like to get on a couple. I like what them guys out in California said they call canyon carvers. They like to get on those windy, twisty roads. Okay, I'm guilty. I love doing it. I like getting on the highway and finding my roads in New Jersey. 524 Stagecoach Road. I like whizzing down that one. I like 29 going north towards the river on the other side of Lambertville. I like that. I like some of those windy, twisty roads. I need to take a camera one day and show guys that we got some beautiful roads here in New Jersey. And we got some nice going around through the Pine Barrens, down by Cape May, going towards the shore. You forgot, we're a shore state, so we have a coastline. So we have some beautiful views of the ocean, which is pretty nice. And I'm learning now, as I get more mature, that I tend to slow it down and enjoy the vistas and the views. But at the same time, if I gotta twist it up a little bit and get out of the way of that idiot, I can do that as well. So you guys have a blessed day. My quest continues. I'm looking for that perfect replacement machine that has all these features, that has the bicycle handling, that has a more comfortable riding position without going to a cruiser. But I'm not ready for a sport tour, you know. I'm kind of not into the luggage and the bags, not as of yet. You know, before I do that, I'll just hop in the old Fort Runner and go run down the highway in that. You guys have a blessed day. And the mature guy, my quest continues.